7 Epic Secrets to Break Free from Addiction. Discover the shocking truth. In the heart of every city, beneath the bustling streets and flickering neon lights, lies a secret so potent it could change lives in an instant. Imagine a door, ajar, whispering your name. What's behind it? What shadows lurk in the corners of your mind, pulling you into craving and despair? This is a journey into the uncharted depths of addiction, revealing truths even the boldest dare not speak. A truth so shocking, it makes the hairs on the back of your neck stand up. Every person struggling knows the strange pull of addiction. Like a puppet on strings, often you feel the weight of despair deepening your wounds. Streets are haunted by figures lost to the night, their eyes glazed, flickering between moments of clarity and the tantalizing haze of escape. Have you noticed how many faces look familiar? They're mirrors, reflections of what could happen if you slip just once more. It's chilling. The reality is that addiction doesn't just affect the individual, it ripples through families, friends, entire communities, until consciousness trembles with the weight of lost connections, and then, there's the oddity of how some seem to break free, as if handed a golden ticket. What sets them apart? What are their secrets? Every whisper in the wind speaks volumes, and beneath the chaos lies a framework of unbelievable resilience. You can almost hear the heartbeat of possibility echoing in their stories, but can you decipher the code? Each tale unlocks layers of mystery, begging for deeper inquiry. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As we dig deeper, you might be surprised by the extraordinary twists that lie ahead. Could it be the abandoned warehouse behind the diner? The mysterious group meeting in the shadows? Let your mind wander as curiosity peaks. Who possesses the ability to unveil the elusive secrets that lie hidden, waiting in the darkness? What's the price of knowledge? And more importantly, who will emerge from the depths, ready to share the untold tales that could breathe life back into those yearning for freedom? Each step you take leads closer to shocking discoveries, revelations that may just unlock the chains of addiction, forever changing the course of lives ground into the unforgiving asphalt of despair. What awaits at the edge of this journey? Hope, a choice, or another stumble into the abyss? The alley smelled of damp concrete and desperation, a cocktail that clung to the air like grime on your skin. Jax could feel the walls closing in, as if even the bricks understood the pain he tried to escape. Shadows shifted restlessly, echoing his anxious heartbeat, and deep inside, he knew he was not alone. He looked up, scanning the dim flicker of a streetlight barely illuminating the path ahead. It flickered, teasing him with a momentary glimpse of hope before plunging the alley back into darkness. Was it just him, or did the shadows seem to draw closer, whispering his name? Straining to focus, he remembered the stories he'd heard about the group meeting in the old warehouse, the one that promised help, connection, and maybe even redemption. But could he trust it? He took a deep breath, the air thick with fear and doubt. Every step toward that dilapidated structure felt like stepping into uncertain territory riddled with the ghosts of failures past. Fear gripped him, but so did a flicker of defiance. If there was even a chance, he owed it to himself to try. As he approached the warehouse, he was greeted by echoes of laughter and muffled voices swelling inside. His heart raced. These were the sounds of life, of people who had fought the same battles. Yet, a voice in the back of his head reminded him of the danger. What if these people were only more lost, leading him further down the rabbit hole instead of pulling him out? But he couldn't turn back now. Gathering courage, he pushed open the rusted door. It creaked ominously, like a warning. Inside, the air was electric charged with energy, hope, and something darker, a hidden undercurrent of desperation that made Jax's skin crawl. The room was a patchwork of scattered chairs and broken tables, wall graffiti displaying tales of struggle and survival mingled with desolation. Before him stood a group, their faces illuminated by a single bare bulb. They looked up, catching his gaze, and Jax felt the weight of their attention pressing down on him. "Welcome," said a woman with striking blue eyes, her voice smooth yet penetrating. "You're not alone here." Jax hesitated, the words swirling in his mind. Could he really grasp the lifeline they seemed to extend, or would he just sink further? Each face in the room reflected fear and hope, a mirror of his own turmoil. They were all so different, yet united by an invisible thread that whispered of understanding. Just then, an explosive shout broke the tension. "You can't trust them, Jax." A figure in the back, shadowed and wild-eyed, interrupted. "They're all just puppets. You'll just get strung along." Gasps erupted from the group, the atmosphere tangling into chaos as whispers of dissent floated in the air. Jax's heart thudded painfully in his chest. He could feel the shift in energy. Was this a warning? An opportunity to escape? As panic gripped him, he had to decide, would he turn back or take the plunge into the murky depths of this gathering? The room held its breath, awaiting his choice. Would he brave the storm of uncertainty, or flee back into the consuming darkness that had chased him for so long? Tension clung to the air like fog, blocking the path to clarity. What awaited him on the other side of fear? The pulse of possibility throbbed in his temple, begging him to know the truth. But like shadows retreating at dawn, the answers remained just out of reach, and all Jax could do was take one last deep breath, feeling the weight of finality draw near. What would emerge on the other side of this threshold? As he stepped into the room, ready for whatever lay ahead, one chilling thought rang in his mind: was this his last chance, or was he diving deeper into a pit of deception? The chaos erupted around Jax, a maelstrom of voices colliding in a frenzied swirl. His instincts screamed for him to back away, to retreat into the comforting embrace of the darkness outside, where the suffocating pressure of expectation didn't exist. But curiosity clawed at him, fiercer than anything else. Could these people truly understand? Silence. The woman with blue eyes commanded, her voice slicing through the discord like a knife. Instinctively, the room quieted. All eyes shifted between Jax and the wild-eyed figure, whose energy crackled in the air like static. "Who are you to come in here and spread fear?" she challenged, her gaze locking onto the man. "We're here for help, not to be spooked by ghosts of our past." The wild-eyed man scoffed, a sneer twisting his lips. "Help? Or a trap?" he retorted. His voice trembled, not just with rage but with something else: fear, a heart-wrenching fear that gripped Jax's own heart like a vice. "They're feeding you lies, Jax. You'll end up worse than you started." The tension in the room thickened, like a fog rolling in off the ocean, obscuring what lay ahead. Jax felt dread pooling in his stomach, but it battled with something stronger, an ember of hope ignited by the intensity of the moment. "Enough." Jax's voice surprised him as it broke the silence, trembling but firm. "I'm here to decide for myself." He stepped farther into the room, feeling the eyes of the group bore into him, each one a mirror reflecting the chaos inside him. Was he brave? Or was he only running into a different version of hell? The blue-eyed woman nodded, a flicker of approval shimmering in her gaze. "You're right. Everyone has to find their own path. This place isn't for everyone. But before you turn away, we need you to know that we're not perfect. We are searching." She gestured around the room, her hands sweeping over faces filled with varying degrees of desperation and resolve. "You can find connection here, if you want it." Jax looked at those faces, each story woven with pain and survival. He felt a pang of longing, something he hadn't recognized for so long. But the wild-eyed man wouldn't let up. "They'll wrap you in their web," he called, his voice dripping with desperation. "And you'll never escape. They don't want to save you, they want to own you." "Please," another voice chimed in, soft and trembling, but full of desperation. "Let us help you." We know the darkness. We've been there. A young man stepped forward, his face marked with the scars of battles lost. We came for comfort, for understanding, not to control. We can't do it alone. Jack's heart pounded. They seemed genuine, and yet a malignant doubt creeped in, insidious and persistent. What if they were just there to pull him into the depths of their own suffering? What if the wild-eyed man was right? The air hung suspended, thick with anticipation. The wild-eyed man's expression shifted from rage to something softer, almost pleading. They're not your friends, Jax. They want to manipulate you. Find your way out before it's too late. As Jax wrestled with the tempest of thoughts spiraling in his head, he caught a fleeting glance at the blue-eyed woman again. It was a look filled with such sadness that it shook him. It held a lifetime of pain, but also belief. Belief that change was possible. He took a deep, shuddering breath. In this moment, surrounded by the unknown, was he standing on the cusp of salvation or on the edge of a deeper abyss? Make your choice, Jax. Shouted the wild-eyed man, an urgency in his tone. The brimming silence settled over the room, like the final breath before a storm. Jax felt the weight of their expectations pressing down on him, pushing him to either leap into this fray of uncertainty or retreat back into the familiar abyss. What awaited him if he stepped forward? Doubt churned fiercely alongside an unyielding glimmer of hope. But could hope breathe life in such despair, or would it ignite a wildfire? With his heart racing and the room watching, one question lingered: was he ready to face the risks of connection, or had he already missed his last chance? Jax's breath hitched in his throat as the wild-eyed man's words echoed in the tense silence. The eyes of the group were like hot coals, each a spark waiting to ignite. He could feel the weight of their desperation pressing against him, drawing him closer while the wild-eyed man pushed him away. Please. The blue-eyed woman stepped forward, her voice steady but laced with urgency. We understand your fear. We all do. But what he says, that's not the whole truth. This place is about healing. You're not alone anymore. He could see the flickering fire of hope in her eyes, but it was almost drowned by the chaotic cries of the man who fought against it. They'll just use you, Jax. They'll turn your pain into their power. Inside, a war raged. Jax's thoughts raced as memories flickered before him, each a reminder of betrayal, of loss, of sharp, piercing isolation. Could he trust these strangers? And what if he turned to the wild-eyed man? Would he regret staying in the shadows, too scared to grasp the light before him? As if sensing his internal struggle, the young man with scars stepped closer, his voice softer now, a whisper of vulnerability. What do you want, Jax? No one can decide that but you. But sometimes, the fear of the unknown. He paused, struggling with the weight of his own truth, is scarier than the battle we already know. The room seemed to shrink, the heartbeat of silence amplifying every thought and feeling. With each passing moment, Jax felt something crack inside him. He wanted to scream, to run, but he found himself rooted to the spot. He locked eyes with the blue-eyed woman again. What if you're wrong? What if this is just another path to pain? You'll never know unless you give it a chance, she urged, sincerity washing over her features like soft light after a long, dark night. Please. You don't have to carry this enough. The wild-eyed man's voice broke like glass. Open your eyes. They're lying to you. They want to break you, to rebuild you into something you're not. It's a trap. Stop. Jax shouted, his voice carrying an authority he didn't know he had. The man's eyes widened in surprise, but something more had shifted inside Jax. Anger rose to the surface, battling with the uncertainty. Maybe it is a trap. Maybe it isn't. But maybe. Jax paused, clenching his fists. Maybe I need to find out for myself. As the tension shifted in the room, the air felt electric. Jax took a step forward, breaking the circle of expectation that had formed around him. The wild-eyed man looked both furious and desperate, while the blue-eyed woman's expression transformed into an expression of relief mixed with encouragement. Are you sure about this? She asked softly, like crumbling embers stirring back to life. It's terrifying, but I can't stay in fear. I can't live like that anymore, Jax breathed, stepping closer to the group. As he moved, he sensed the shift. The world around him seemed to hold its breath along with him. The anticipation was palpable, and it wrapped around him like a shroud. He could see the corners of their mouths lift slightly, the glimmers of hope reigniting, but then, a noise sliced through the silence, a guttural sound emanating from the wild-eyed man. Jax turned to him, only to see horror etched across his face, his body trembling. No, no. You don't know what you're doing. You don't understand. Tell me. Jax shouted back, desire for answers clawing at him. What is it that I need to know? Suddenly, chaos erupted behind him, shadows darting across the walls in a frenzied dance. Whispers filled the air, and the chill of dread washed over him like ice water. The breath caught in his throat once more. What are they hiding? He wondered, fear igniting each nerve in his body. As the whispers intensified, and the blue-eyed woman took a step closer, her eyes wide, Jax knew one thing for certain, the real trial was just beginning. He'd just stepped into something that felt darker than he anticipated, but was it liberation or doom that awaited him? With his heart pounding, Jax braced himself for whatever was about to break loose. Jax's heart raced as the whispers grew louder, surrounding him like a swarm of bees. Fear gripped him, but curiosity clawed at his insides. What awaited in that overwhelming darkness? The wild-eyed man's face twisted in anguish, his words struggling to breach the maelstrom of sound. They'll come for you. You don't see it yet, but this place is a facade, a breeding ground for despair. He cried, his voice cracking under the weight of his own panic. Jax could feel the sweat pooling on the back of his neck. Was this really liberation, or just another guise for entrapment? The blue-eyed woman reached out, brushing her fingers against Jax's arm. A spark ignited where their skin connected, a spark that sent a jolt of determination through his body. Trust yourself, Jax. You're stronger than you know, she said, her voice steady, cutting through the chaos like a lifeline. Just then, the room plunged into darkness, the flickering light of the fire snuffed out completely. Gasps echoed in the pitch black, a choir of fear that made Jax's pulse quicken. The atmosphere shifted, thickening with dread, but he felt the soft, guiding touch of the woman's hand usher him forward. Stay close, she commanded, though doubt crept into her tone. Where are the others? Jax's voice frayed in the stillness, barely rising above the chaos in his mind. We need to find a way outside. To escape this place before the wild-eyed man's shout was suddenly cut off, drowned beneath another wave of whispered fears. What was happening? The shadows moved with a life of their own, and so did the whispers, singing a haunting lament that seeped into his bones. Jax stumbled forward, feeling an inner calling, an urge to unravel whatever this was, but just as he thought they might press on, a piercing shriek broke the air. It echoed in his mind, making his flesh crawl. Everything in him screamed to turn back. The blue-eyed woman, however, stood her ground, breathing deeply as she leaned into Jax. We have to keep moving. Jax grabbed her wrist, holding tight, drawing strength from her steadfastness. With hearts hammering, they pressed onward, navigating the dark. Yet confusion clouded Jax's thoughts. What were they running from? What was hidden in the shadows that made the wild-eyed man tremble? Then, in the distance, a light glimmered. It beckoned them forward like a lighthouse in a storm. There, he whispered, letting instinct guide him, desperate to chase away the encroaching dread that threatened to swallow them whole. As they neared the light, the faint outlines of figures became visible. They appeared trapped within a cacophony of shadows, eyes wide with unearthly fear. You shouldn't have come here. A voice cut through, dark and foreboding, full of sorrow and warning. What have you done? Jax called out, his voice stronger now even against the rising tide of panic. The figures stared back, their eyes hollow and lost, pupils wild with despair. Another figure stepped forward, a man clad in tattered remnants of what once was. You think you can save them? He spat, sweeping his arm toward the huddled masses. This is no sanctuary, no healing ground. This is a nightmare, and it's hungry. The implications crashed over Jax like a rogue wave. Were they caught in an endless cycle of suffering? With shaking breath, he turned back to the blue-eyed woman, searching her face for signs of hope. What do we do? He asked, desperation clinging to each word. Before she could answer, the darkness thickened, and a low growl echoed from deep within the shadows, a sound so primal and feral it sent shivers racing down Jax's spine. It wasn't he done, it had only just begun. Run! Someone shouted from the corner, but the chaos erupted again, the shadows swirling, twisting into nightmarish shapes. Jax grasped the woman's hand tighter, their connection a fleeting anchor against the tide of panic. They had entered a twisted labyrinth where their choices would define the battles to come, and deep down, Jax knew he'd have to confront whatever evil was lurking there, but as they surged forward, the question nagged. Could they escape, or was this the moment they would finally be claimed by the darkness? As they fled deeper into the unknown, terror gripped Jax once more. He realized the answer to that question was precariously out of reach, with time running out. Jax's heart pounded in his chest as they darted deeper into the darkness, limbs thrumming with adrenaline. Each growl from the shadows sent tremors of fear coursing through him. Where was the way out? His mind raced as if it could conjure a pathway free of this chaos. The blue-eyed woman, her grip unyielding yet comforting, led him through the shifting gloom. I don't know what's chasing us, but we can't stop. She urged, her voice echoing with determination. But Jax's gaze caught sight of fleeting figures in the dark eyes glinting like shards of glass, masks of anguish etched on disembodied faces. Why are they staring at us? Jax's voice wavered. Each heartbeat sounded louder as if the shadows somehow amplified their fear. Are they trapped? They're lost, she replied, glancing over her shoulder. Just like us if we don't move. As if the shadows understood her words, an icy wind whipped through the narrow passage. It cut through the warmth of their shared moment, igniting every instinct to flee. This way! She shouted, pulling him sharply to the right. Dread coiled in Jax's gut. Was it the right choice? He begged for clarity, but this maze of despair offered none. They stumbled upon a cavern, the walls slick with moisture, the air thick with a choking smell of decay. Jax's stomach twisted at the sight of skeletal remains. They draped limply against the walls, eyes hollow and mouth agape in eternal screams. Keep moving. She insisted, her voice a flickering candle in the night. When Jax hesitated to turn away, he heard the whispers of the entrenched souls drift into his ear like a ghostly wind, pleading for release. Don't listen to them. The woman urged, pulling him away. They want to drag us down with them. Just then, a new cacophony erupted. Footsteps splintered the silence, rushing toward them like an impending storm. Jax's pulse quickened, every instinct cried out for fight or flight. What do we do if we can't escape? He gasped, glancing into her fierce eyes, desperately seeking an anchor amid the chaos. We have to trust each other, she said firmly, planting her feet. Trust we can break free from whatever this place is. Suddenly, an unnerving roar reverberated against the cavern walls. It made the shadows writhe and recoil, summoning spectral visions of longing and despair. They're coming, Jax hissed, his body trembling. What if they catch us? The woman met his fear with fierce resolve, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. Let them come. We've survived this long, haven't we? We will fight. A glimmer in the darkness captured Jax's attention, a slant of light spilling like honey from an unseen exit. He pointed toward it, hope flickering to life. There. We can make it. With the sound of the growls intensifying behind them, they pushed forward, the fear of the dark fuels their struggle. Each anguished whisper grew louder as if warning them, trying to draw them back into despair. But just as they reached the light, a figure emerged, a tall shadow, looming and grotesque, blocking their way. You can't leave. It hissed, its voice a twisted imitation of a human S. The blue-eyed woman stepped in front of Jax, hands raised defiantly. "We will break free. You can't hold us." Jax's breath hitched, uncertainty bubbling in his chest as the monstrous being advanced, eyes aflame with malice. The path before them felt impossibly narrow, fraught with dangers both seen and unseen. With every ounce of courage, they charged forward, determination colliding with fear. But even as they approached the light, the looming figure's shadow swallowed the path ahead. The question clawed at Jax's throat: could they really break free, or were they destined to be consumed by the darkness forever? Each step felt like a battle, and just when he thought they could escape, the shadows lunged, ready to reclaim what they believed belonged to them. Light flickered, taunting them as they faced down the menacing figure. Jax's eyes widened, pulse pounding like war drums in his ears. Was this the end? The monstrous silhouette lunged, but exactly in that moment, the blue-eyed woman drew a deep breath. "Now!" she cried, grabbing Jax's hand and tugging him toward the light with a vigor that pierced through his despair. The shadows howled, a cacophony of rage and desperation echoing in their wake. They sprinted, hearts racing, feet pounding against the cold, unforgiving ground. The looming figure roared, its elongated fingers outstretched, grasping at the fading shadows. "You cannot escape!" it bellowed, its voice a chilling wind that wrapped around them like chains. Each breath Jax took felt heavy, the depth of despair threatened to spool him back into the abyss. With every stride, the weight of unseen eyes bore down, pleading, lurking, but they pushed through, propelled by adrenaline and sheer will. As they neared the light, something moved in Jax's periphery. More figures flickered in and out, their faces twisted in agony. "We have to help them," he shouted, feeling a surge of compassion mingled with guilt. These trapped souls deserved liberation too. "No!" she shouted back, her grip tightening. "We can't. Not now." Yet her resolve shook him. Were they to abandon countless others for their own escape? A moment's hesitation swirled chaos within him, and the shadows crept ever closer, gnawing at his thoughts. The sound of the growling crescendoed, thickening the air with dread. A shadowy claw brushed against his ankle, he stumbled, nearly falling. "Jax!" Her voice pierced through, fierce like a blade of light. In that instant, he saw her, the beauty radiating from her eyes wasn't just resolve, it was compassion. They both felt the same plea to help those in suffering. "Okay. Let us do it fast," he yelled, heart in his throat. "A distraction." "What? Are you crazy?" she shouted, panic flaring in her blue irises. "I'll keep them busy. You free the souls. Please." His voice echoed against the cavern wall, and the shadows hesitated, sensing the new shift in their desperate game. A flicker of uncertainty crossed her beautiful features. "But just trust me. I want to let them take you." Without pondering further, Jax charged back, forcing himself into the brood of growling entities. He shouted defiantly, drawing their attention as the horror-filled eyes of the unfortunate souls flitted towards him. "Hey! Over here! Come and get me!" Adrenaline surged as the shadows whipped around, forming an unwavering mass. The growl crescendoed into a howling chorus, tendrils of darkness reaching for him like ravenous beasts. The figure that had once barred their way roared louder, having spun around at this new source of energy. "Jax!" the woman screamed. "Now!" he yelled back, praying she would use this moment of chaos. He hurtled himself deeper into the shadows, allowing raw fear to fuel his limbs, even as he felt them closing in from all sides. The second stretched into elongated eternity, and the cavern transformed into a swirling mess of darkness and fear. He glanced back, catching a fleeting glimpse of the blue-eyed woman moving toward the lost souls, hands raised, words spilling from her lips. Ethereal light radiated from her, a stark contrast to the consuming blackness around them. Would she succeed? Could they both break free from the torment that clung to them? Suddenly, he felt a sharp tug on his consciousness. One of the specters had dared to reach out, skin like ash, eyes flickering with fleeting hope. "Please help us," the looming figure hissed, lashing through the air, deterring him from his growing connection with those lost souls. "You think you're a hero?" it growled, its voice splintering with rage. "You cannot save them. You are just as lost." Shivers raced down Jax's spine. Were they really lost? Was he stronger than they were? In that moment, the realization settled: freedom had to be fought for, but could it be bought at the cost of others' rescue? Could he risk it all? As darkness tightened around him, a final decision loomed ever nearer. With screams and shadows swirling in chaos, he wondered just how far they had to fall to find the light. And then, just before he thought it was over, he heard the unmistakable sound of breaking chains. Where would it lead? The chains cracked like thunder, sending shockwaves through the shadows. Jax's heart raced faster, a mix of fear and exhilaration flooding his veins. That sound, was it a sign of hope? Or merely a trick of the dark? Around him, the shadows churned violently, as if confused by the shift in their world. The monstrous figure bellowed in rage, its frustration echoing off the walls, deep and menacing. It lunged toward Jax with a vicious snarl, but he ducked, allowing the creature's momentum to push it off balance. "Come on. Focus!" he shouted, trying to stir his own divine courage. He could feel the energy pulsating from the chains, bright now in his mind, as if they were the lifeline to those trapped in the darkness. Each crack sent out waves of incandescence, every snap resonated deep within him. Meanwhile, the blue-eyed woman continued to chant, her voice harmonizing with the echoes in the cavern. That ethereal light she conjured began illuminating the lost souls, their faces transforming as they felt the warmth of hope seep into them. They were no longer just empty shadows, they were people who had once mattered, lost dreams, unrealized lives, a symphony of unfulfilled potential woven into their very essence. "Jax!" she called, voice steely and strong yet edged with urgency. "I can't hold this much longer. You have to disrupt the figure's focus." "Right!" he shouted back, fear and determination merging. The creature was still off balance, this was his chance. Jax sprinted forward, launching himself at the monster's legs. The impact jarred it, making it stumble back into the swirling chaos. Gripping the edges of reality, Jax felt something stir inside him. In that split second, he realized he could push back, he could wield the very essence of those lost souls, channeling their torment into power. "Release them!" he cried, throwing up his hands, breathing deeply, as he felt the weight of all the lost lives around him. He became their voice, their conduit of liberation. Waves of energy erupted from him, cascading toward the figure, blindingly bright. The entity howled in fury, almost human for a split second, before it transformed under the onslaught, its monstrous form flickering like a dying flame. Jax knew this was the moment of reckoning. But just as the creature swayed beneath the bulwark of light, a piercing scream cut through the air, sharper than any blade. The blue-eyed woman faltered, her light flickering, leaving the souls momentarily adrift. "Stay strong," Jax urged her. "You're almost there." But shadows continued to swirl and wrap around the souls, threatening to snuff out the very light that had begun to break their chains. Jax felt every ounce of despair and hopelessness crash into him, but he held firm. If he failed now, everything they fought for would go dark once more. Taking a breath, he forced his will into the fray, refusing to let the darkness win. "No!" he roared, as if his voice could swallow the shadows whole. Suddenly, the cavern rumbled as the chains broke completely, their fragments dancing like fireflies caught in a fierce wind. In that chaos, spectral whispers rose, entwining with the energy of Jax's bravery. A chorus of the lost joined him, each speaking their truth, fueling the rebellion against the creature they had faced for far too long. And then, it happened. The figure reared back, its gargantuan silhouette melting into the air, shrieking as the light swallowed it whole. Silence reigned, a heavy blanket settling around them, comforting yet foreboding. But Jax could feel it, hope hung in the air, thick and palpable. They were free at least, for now. The real question lingered like a shadow at the edge of the light. Would the freedom last? As Jax turned to find the blue-eyed woman, a piercing gaze met his. She was trembling, but her eyes sparkled with fierce resilience. "Jax," she whispered, "we need to go now. There is something else, something we didn't see." Before she could finish, a deafening thud reverberated through the cavern, shaking the ground beneath them. Fear snaked its way back into Jax's heart. What now? He breathed, the weight of dread settling in. And just as he prepared to run, dark ripples spread across the ground like ink bleeding on parchment. Something new was coming. The battle wasn't over. What had they awakened, and would they find the strength to face it? The ground heaved beneath Jax as tremors shot through the cavern, raw and threatening. Shadows, no longer swirling, coalesced into a new darkness, a thick fog that crept toward them. Panic surged, turning the air electric. His instincts screamed to run, but the blue-eyed woman held her ground, eyes wide with both fear and determination. "Get ready!" she shouted, her voice piercing through the impending dread. "We need to face this together." Jax nodded, his heart pounding. He could feel the remnants of the souls they had liberated whispering to him, urging him onward, as if they believed in him more than he believed in himself. But what loomed ahead in the darkness felt different. It was more than a monster, it felt like a fate that had been waiting for them, anticipating their every move. Suddenly, figures began to rise from the fog, twisting and writhing as grotesque visages materialized out of the gloom. A chorus of anguished whispers filled the air, clamoring for attention, and Jax's stomach dropped. It was a sound he recognized. Every whisper was a fragment of despair, an echo of those who had never found release. "Hold on to the light!" he yelled, locking eyes with the woman beside him. She nodded fiercely, her spirit igniting the room with a faint glow, but as Jax stood there, trying to muster every ounce of strength he had, the manifestations began to take form, transforming into a host of shadowy figures, each one dressed in tattered memories that mirrored horrors of a life lived in chains. They were tortured souls, trapped in the violation of their existence. The lead figure stepped forward, a chilling presence radiating malice. Its eyes burned with a hellish fire as it extended its arms, and Jax felt a sudden chill wash over him, deathly cold. "Fools," it hissed, its voice slick like oil. "You only delay the inevitable." "No!" Jax shouted, a surge of anger igniting within. "We're not afraid of you anymore." The blue-eyed woman stepped forward, her aura shimmering, swirling around them like a shield. "We've seen your darkness. You don't own us." At her words, the figures shrieked in defiance, their cries mingling with the wind, a cacophony of the fragmented lives they once led. Jax could feel their pain woven into his resolve, filling him with a strength he didn't know he had, but the lead ghost snarled, advancing with a force that sent waves of dread crashing against Jax's chest. "You cannot fight what you do not understand. You think you have liberated them? They only belong in the depths." Every instinct told Jax to retreat. The promises of freedom felt like smoke, too fragile to grasp. But he remembered the chains snapping. It had been a start. They were here, still standing, still fighting. "Don't listen to it," he cried, pushing forward. "It feeds on fear. You all matter. You are not lost. You deserve to be free." The shadows hesitated, caught between Jax's voice and the haunting presence of their past. This was the moment he had to seize, and he reached deep within himself, calling forth the courage of every lost soul he had encountered. Light exploded from the center of his chest, gorgeous and brilliant. Together with the blue-eyed woman's light, they formed a radiant barrier. "Stand with us," he beckoned. "We're stronger together." But as the shadows crested closer, darkness clawing at the edge of their light, Jax heard the lead figure whisper, "You think this makes you fearless? You will regret this day." The earth trembled again. This time, it felt like a warning. Jax could barely hold his focus as the shadows churned, thrashing against their luminescent wall, seeking weaknesses, searching for a crack to exploit. And then, from the depths of the darkness, a new sound emerged, a deep, rumbling laugh that echoed off the cavern walls. Jax's blood ran cold. It was a sound that promised destruction, hinting at untold chaos. What is that? He gasped, dread creeping in, a vice tightening around his throat. The shadows and the darkness seemed to merge, forming something altogether more insidious. Jax's heart raced as he realized the battle was just beginning. Get ready. The woman yelled again. We fight for them. We can't back down. But as Jax prepared to face the nightmare emerging from the dark, one question loomed heavy in the air: what dark force had they truly awakened beneath the surface? Would they find the strength to overcome the true horror that lay ahead? Jax stood at the edge of the abyss, heart racing like a kettle on the boil. The shadows coiled around him, a thick mist of despair that seemed to drain color from the walls. He felt the weight of fear pressing down, threatening to pin him to the ground. But beside him, the blue-eyed woman radiated strength, her determination a beacon in the suffocating dark. What's coming? He gasped, barely able to lift his gaze from the writhing mass before them. The darkness undulated, claw-like forms reaching through the fog, hungry for despair, eager to consume everything in its path. It's a force that thrives on suffering, she whispered, her voice trembling yet fierce. But we have a choice. We can fight. Jax nodded, the reality of their situation crashing upon him like icy waves. They were not just battling for their own freedom, they were battling for the countless lost souls still trapped in this nightmare. And he felt the whispers of those souls envelop him, urging him to keep fighting. Fear had never been heavier, but so too had the flicker of hope ignited within him. Together? He asked, squeezing her hand tightly. Always, she replied, her eyes locking onto his with a conviction that sent tremors of warmth through him. As the darkness swelled like a tide, threatening to drown them, Jax summoned every ounce of courage he possessed. We're not afraid of you. He shouted, his voice echoing off the cavernous walls. Light will always push back darkness. The lead figure, a grotesque blend of swirling shadows and despair, laughed a sound that reverberated with malice. You think these weak flames will stand against me? It hissed, venom dripping from its every word. You're just children playing at bravery. This darkness is eternal. But that laugh only fueled Jax's resolve. He felt the energy from the liberated souls pulsing beneath him. We are more than you think. He yelled. We have faced the darkness and emerged into the light. Others have fought, and their struggles have not gone unnoticed. With that declaration, he summoned the energy within him. Heat ignited in his chest, blossoming into a force of pure light. The air shimmered around him, and he felt the warmth transfer from his heart through his fingertips into the blue-eyed woman. She mirrored his intensity, her eyes ablaze with determination. Their combined strength surged forward, a golden wave blanketing the darkness, rippling like sunlight on water. Keep going. She urged, heart pounding. We can banish this darkness for good. In that moment, as light clashed against shadow, the darkness writhed, twisting and pulling back. The lead figure's face contorted, revealing a glimpse of fear and emotion it had not known before. You will regret this. It roared, but this time, its voice trembled, filled with uncertainty. I will not let you. You cannot control us. Jax shouted back, pushing forward, digging deeper into the reservoir of strength he had not known existed. We will not become your prisoners. With one final surge, the light they conjured swallowed the darkness whole. Jax caught glimpses of the souls' faces, their eyes lighting up with wonder and gratitude. Freedom wasn't just a dream, it was a reality, coursing through the very fabric of their beings. The shadows shrieked in agony, retreating before the onslaught of authenticity and truth. No. This isn't finished. The lead figure's voice faltered, fading into nothingness as the light enveloped it, a flash of brilliance that radiated hope among the forgotten moments that felt like hours. The cavern brightened, the dank, oppressive atmosphere lifting, replaced with a warmth that caressed their skin like the first rays of dawn breaking through, ushering in new life. And then, just like that, the chaos settled into stillness. The air felt lighter. Jax looked around, wide-eyed with disbelief. He had expected to find loss, but instead, he found a promise. The specters had transformed too, shifting from grotesque figures into the tender forms of those who had been lost, each face radiant with relief, tears pooling in grateful eyes. "We are free," Jax murmured, his voice thick with emotion. "We did it." The blue-eyed woman smiled, tears streaming down her cheeks. "No. We all did it," she said, her voice breaking beautifully. "Together." One by one, the lost souls began to shimmer, each one lifting off the ground as if a weight had been lifted, ascending into the air like petals in a gentle breeze. Jax felt a rush of emotion. For every soul liberated from the throes of darkness, he felt the chains of despair slipping away from himself. With every face before him, he understood the unity of purpose, the power of connection that transcended pain. But then, echoes of doubt crept in once more. What now? What happens next? He asked softly, concern etched across his brow. The blue-eyed woman turned to him, lips curling into a soft smile. "Now, we live. This is not the end, it's just the beginning of healing. Together, we'll carry the light into our lives." He could hardly believe it. The path ahead was still uncharted, but they would navigate it side by side. Jax breathed deeply, tension melting away like snow under the sun, and with those shared glances and newfound hope, they stepped into the light, ready to forge a future that was no longer shackled by the past but bursting with potential. Jax couldn't help but smile, feeling lighter than air, knowing that they were no longer defined by their struggles, but by the strength of their courage. As they walked toward the dawn of a new day, one final thought echoed through his mind: freedom is not a destination, it's a journey that begins with one step. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss any of the incredible stories that could change lives. Smash that like button now. It helps the algorithm boost the message of hope we've just uncovered. Flood the comments section with your reactions. What did this mean to you? And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to hear this conclusion. Spread the light.